For the last month, I've been like percolating on a thought. There's like been a issue that has been bothering me that I hadn't quite like processed it out yet. And I think last night I had an interaction on Twitter that helped me like fully like pin down what's going on with this particular issue. And it surrounds the issues presented by Kanye West and Kyrie Irving and the need to say something. I know for a fact that people have been waiting on and are expecting me to say something. And this is like a little bit of everybody, right? Because things need to be said. And just to be clear and blunt, like I don't fuck with anything they've done in the last month or so, a couple months. Yeah, homie that called me a Democrat, but don't throw shade though, because we ended up having a long, good conversation and it really helped. He did come in swinging, but I can always tell like my black male critics, like 95% of them are just black male conservatives. Either they're manosphere type niggas or quasi-manosphere type niggas or just general conservatives. And so I could tell based on what he had on his Twitter, I was like, nah, this ain't just a manosphere nigga. And so we ended up talking, and as we talked, we found like, commonalities. And I think he was like, okay, I hope he came off thinking he caught me wrong. And in talking to him, it helped kind of like, because I appreciate good criticism. I don't like being an influencer. I don't like the nature of what this job does to your headspace. And I'm always looking for like critics that are like-minded, but also in different headspaces and different life spaces so that I can evaluate myself and what I'm doing effectively, because I'm doing something I never planned on doing. I never planned on being a black voice. I didn't even like the concept of black voices. And so I've seen it in my personal life. It's so easy to just smell your own farts. The nature of this work, I think just the nature of society, when a man gets power and status, it's easily corruptible. Especially when that wasn't a place I wasn't looking for all of this. I appreciate it. I love it. I'm trying to do my best with it, but I wasn't looking for it. And so, yeah. So I guess let's start there. So for over a month now, I've been seeing comments and tweets, are you going to talk about Kyrie and Kanye's anti-Semitism and other nonsense? And I am going to talk about it eventually. I'm in conversation with Lady Knight the Brave on the regular, kind of just like talking about, issues around Judaism and trying to like develop a level of consciousness and analysis, because I don't have a strong analytical frame around anti-Semitism and Judaism other than like the obvious stuff. I've been just doing little stuff, but that's next spring at the earliest. I have my next couple of things planned out already, and I'm not about to rush them. So I'm gonna say something, but the urgency and like the impetus to say something bothered me, because it became clear that it was my responsibility to comment on these brothers, when overall I don't like that in general. Although things need to be said, like this is also very obvious stuff, right? Like this is anti-Semitism, Black Hebrew Israelite nonsense that like anybody who's in community with Black people like has a relatively decent understanding that this is some shit that's been around forever, that has never been seriously taken in the Black community. It's been some insular, low-key, goofy stuff, right? But it's never been platformed at this level. And so once it becomes platformed at this level, then yeah, it does have to be addressed. And it does have to be addressed by Black men, because it's an issue that mostly engages with Black men. But my position in the discourse didn't sit right with me, because I'm a bred to it. And although my audience is, I feel like at least between Black men and Black women, at least 60% Black, I still have a large white audience. That audience is appreciated, but there's chunks of that audience that also watch Destiny. You know what I'm saying? There's chunks of that audience that definitely desire hearing me validate Hotep fear mongering. They want to hear me point to the most extreme Black bastion of Black politics, like the Hebrew Israelites, and like get their jollies from that. They haven't engaged into why they appreciate that. There's a reason why, there's what is it, Black Hammer? I feel like it was called Black Hammer. I didn't know anybody black that had ever heard of them niggas. I only know about those motherfuckers because debate streamers talked about them on a regular basis and platformed those niggas. That it was not a real salient black political movement outside of YouTube. Now I heard they did some fucked up shit, but the nature of the amplification of that group is directly tied to why I said we shouldn't platform certain people. But within BreadTube, LeftTube spaces, Black Hammer was like a real thing. You know what I'm saying? And this brought me to a tweet I said yesterday, which is Black conservatives should not be trusted or taken seriously. In that tweet, what I was getting at is the desire in nature to debunk Black conservatives works differently because of that Black intersection. I don't think enough people understand that. I don't think enough people understand that when you platform Black conservatives especially as a white person, that even if you're doing it for the right reasons, there's no reason to, so don't get me wrong, Black Hammer is ridiculous and I want them to go away and I don't agree with their politics and they're wrong, etc. But when you engage with that from as a white person, even if you do it for the right reasons, you inadvertently validate and center the most regressive or problematic Black voice. And understand there is an algorithmic imperative for Black conservatism in all social media, period. That's the only reason why a guy like Kevin Samuels hasn't amplified. That's the only reason why Umar Johnson has been amplified. That's the only reason why we talk so much about Kyrie and Kanye. Tariq Nasheed's another one. That's the reason why people like me and Conscious Lee are unicorns, because we have to find a way to rise out of Black conservative political thought dressed up as pro-Blackness and pull it further left as Black men. And that's almost impossible to do, at least to the level that we've gotten, right? So there's an algorithmic impetus, an algorithmic drive to say what niggas is out there saying the dumbest shit. Like, share, and subscribe. Give them a boost. You know what I'm saying? And this is not done to Black audiences because Black audiences don't respond to that bullshit. We don't click on those videos. This is sent to white audiences. And then white audiences, especially moderate to liberal white audiences, all they see is a Black face. And if they're not in community with Black people, then they don't understand that this person's political stances and ideas are fringe at best and are not salient across with Black people at all. But they don't know any better. And so then it becomes my responsibility as a person with a platform to make sense of it. And that's frustrating and it's difficult. And it's difficult also for last week, y'all know Noah Samson's my homie. He did a video analyzing some young Black lady's video on Ariel and why Ariel being Black is a bad thing, really. And I watched his video, then I watched her video, then I watched her response video, and it was like clockwork. I was like, I knew this was gonna happen. This is the funniest thing about Black conservatives. Black conservatives only play the race card when it's time to defend white supremacy.
If Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. Problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany.
Ms. Owens, I'm sorry, we just started recording. Would you like time to respond to that?
Yes, I think it's pretty apparent that Mr. Liu believes that Black people are stupid and will not pursue the full clip in its entirety.
Noah, in that video, did the absolute best he could to be gentle and careful about how he was talking, to address just the issues and the flaws in her argument, specifically that she just in her video did not address racism at all. And in her response video, she low-key tries to say, well, this is why I don't believe in white allies. And it's like, But then it becomes a danger zone, because what Noah probably didn't understand or didn't think through is that we've now singled out this young Black woman in a predominantly white space. And even as Noah is very careful to try not to make his critique of her Blackness from the outside looking in, that is what is seen first. You know what I'm saying? And so I thought it was important to point out that, like, there's no reason to be critical of Noah in that situation, because Noah has proved on several occasions that he's part of the crew. But that was a high risk situation, because when you engage Black conservatives, you have to engage them. You really shouldn't. You really shouldn't engage them. There's a reason why I don't talk about Candace Owens much. There's a reason why I haven't talked about Thomas Sowell much. And I'm going to eventually make a video about Black conservatives. But the bottom line is, the race card becomes a real thing when it's like, hey, I want to defend white supremacy and I don't want to be criticized for it. And I want to do it to a white audience. Thus, you can't say anything. And that's how it is. And that's a product of white supremacy as a whole. And that's like the reality of what happens when we elevate voices like a Kyrie Irving, like a Kanye West, is that we have to contend both with the actual problematic things that they're saying, the reality that they're saying it under white supremacy, still as victims of white supremacy, and the audience that they're saying it predominantly to. I said last week when I was talking about Stacey Abrams, there is no growth in Black conservatism. There's a growth in visibility of Black conservatism. We see that through the what happened in voting last week. We see that outside of the nonsense of social media, Black men and women are still voting. At least, not that, so understand, we're talking about voting for Democrats. We're not talking about like leftist movement or activity. And I'll come back to that in a second. But we see that consistently Black men and women have not moved further right. But our media has become inundated with further right images of Blackness. When I search for certain things, there's just way more space taken up by Black conservative talk and energy and ideologies on social media and on YouTube than Black left anything. So me and this guy took a shot, called me a Democrat. And, I didn't take it too personal. I engaged, and eventually we started having a real conversation. And one of the criticisms he pointed out, which is a criticism I have of myself that I'm still trying to manage, is that within the status quo, my actual role is to just teach racism to white people. That is how I got an audience. That is what YouTube thinks I'm doing. That's not what I think I'm doing. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I know that is the purpose I serve. I would not be pushing 400 subscribers today if it weren't for that Bo Burnham video. And that Bo Burnham video blew me up and kind of showed me the matrix and the game of how this shit works. And if you've been following me, then like immediately after that Bo Burnham video, I started becoming more explicitly left. And then as it goes on, I become more explicitly Black and left, and more intentionally antagonistic to moderate white audiences. Now, it doesn't mean anything. Thankfully, I like to think that my shit is good enough that I'm going to be. In fact, I've seen it now. My shit is good enough that I don't have to pander too hard to moderate whites or white leftists to get views and make money, right? I've escaped that for now. I understand enough about the game. My credit score and the algorithm is good enough. I'll be straight. But that doesn't mean that my role within the status quo, within like the media landscape, has changed. It just means that I have a little bit more autonomy, a little bit more maybe integrity that I can keep in my content. You know what I'm saying? But when I hear the calls to talk about Kanye and Kyrie, I'm reminded of what my role is in this. And that bothers me. Not that again, I'm gonna make content around that because it needs to be made, but it don't feel right. You know what I'm saying? it's just kind of a glaring reminder. Like I don't see myself as some type of revolutionary. I'm an educator. And it's just this glaring reminder of how there's still a very explicit superstructure above me. No matter how transgressive I think I'm being, I'm not. And the thing we landed on in our conversation was how there was no black left. There is no black left of prominence in mainstream media, social media, and barely on YouTube. We are still beholden to the ecosystem built by the original bread tube. And so somebody's asked, when we talk about the black left, we're talking about figures like Fanon, Toure, Du Bois, Hooks. Angela Davis is another one. James Baldwin is another one. Thank you. Like Hooks is the best thing we got. You know what I'm saying? Like people know Hooks, but Bell Hooks is not like a true leftist theorist. She's a left theorist, anti-capitalist, anti-patriarchal, etc. But like there's a lot of foundational stuff that you have to go deeper into leftist theory, stuff that I didn't read finishing finishing the whole PhD. I got done with a whole PhD coursework in sociology, and all I got was Du Bois and Fanon. I didn't get most of these other motherfuckers. Malcolm isn't a leftist in his actual like written work. When Malcolm started moving further left, he was killed, which brings us to the issue of like why there is no black left, something that I'm also going to talk about. I think I said this. I said this at some point. I was talking to Conscious Lee and I said this. Being a leftist, being a communist or a socialist was a normal thing up until the 80s, basically. Well, 70s. It started really getting like cleared out in the 60s and 70s. And then by the 80s, I'll say it was gone. And more explicitly, the black wings of it were gone. The black wings of it were not just educated, which is a big problem of what the left is now. The left has little to no salience within working class people, who are the people who most need socialism and communism, and and communism most need them. We will never be able to move the needle on socialism with children of the bourgeoisie, myself included. It will never happen, which means we will never get anywhere until we can re-engage with normies, right? That's why like plenty of criticisms you can talk about with Hassan, but like Hassan's like E-Boy arc where he's talking to academics and laughing at him for not knowing what socialism is, that's useful, you know?
When you're also kind of borderline teetering on what would most people say is socialism, my guy. Like,
wait, what? Let me tell you something about myself then.
But going back to my point, when you look at Du Bois basically exiled himself because he knew it was becoming more threatening to stay in America as a black socialist. Baldwin hid a lot of his socialism for chunks of his career for that very reason. Assata Shakur. No, who's in Cuba right now? A bunch of these folks are in Cuba. Assata Shakur, thank you. And a lot of these dudes, Fred Hampton, Malcolm, Martin, so many others were killed. That's what happened to the black left. The black socialist movement that was very useful and effective and a threat, a legit threat to the American establishment in the 60s and 70s was systematically destroyed, and since then has been erased. Most people don't know that Martin Luther King was at a minimum a social democrat, at a minimum.
And it didn't cost the nation 1 penny to integrate lunch counters. It didn't cost the nation 1 penny to guarantee the right to vote. But now we are dealing with issues that cannot be solved without the nation spending billions of dollars and undergoing a radical redistribution of economic power.
It is a crime for people to live in this rich nation and receive starvation wages.
That is completely kept out of his legacy. I mean, y'all have seen it on my community page. I'm constantly making sure to spotlight other Black creators who are at their core in some spectrum of a Black leftist. Shout out to Turb, shout out to Think Peace Tribe, shout out to Dainty Funk, shout out to, I'm forgetting names, y'all, but y'all know who y'all are. Shout out to all of y'all. And so that is gonna be my core movement going forward, because it's not that I don't like watching videos about Jordan Peterson or, you know, Elon Musk, etc. It's not that the engagement with those figures in these high interest left-leaning topics are not worthy or are not valid. It's that they're a little bit maybe oversaturated. For what I bring to the table, it's spinning my wheels. It's wasting the opportunity that I've attained by hitting almost 400 subscribers. Y'all don't really need me to make a video about Kanye and Kyrie Irving and Black anti-Semitism. You don't need that, because those are at their core Black conservative issues, and Black conservative issues are not to be taken all that seriously, because they are a fraction of an issue. And when we amplify them, we not only waste our time, we reinforce negative stereotypes and negative perceptions of Blackness that hinder the whole movement. Shout out to Jessie Gender. She's another dope white left bread tube type person. She tweeted out the other day, like, it's not okay, some of the stuff that Dave Chappelle and Kanye said about Jewish people, but low key, there's overt white supremacists on the nightly news every night. There are overt white supremacists on the daily news that are the most popular figures in entertainment news media. Tucker Carlson.
We plan to try to say what's true until the last day. And the truth is, unregulated mass immigration has badly hurt this country's natural landscape.
What's the fucking anti-trans guy? Matt Walsh. What they're presenting is not niche ideologies. That is mainstream media. Jessie Gender had her channel struck because she did something offensive to Matt Walsh in a video trying to address the lies and not so thinly veiled fascism he presented in his documentary that was advertised on LeftTube channels. Think about that for a second. Matt Walsh's What a Woman documentary, if you watched any LeftTube videos, I'll say between May and July, you saw lots of previews for that shit. You saw lots of trailers. They purposefully spent money to advertise that shit on our channels. It was ways to stop it. I didn't realize until it was basically too late, but they did that. So, like, that is the core existential threat we're talking about. That's the real shit. And that's why you keep making videos about those figures. But watching the fervor for Kanye debunk videos, when I make my Kanye debunk video, it will not be for white LeftTube viewers. You all will watch it. You all can watch it. That's dope. But like, I will be writing and making that video to touch and address the many young Black men that will, because of the way this is algorithmically optimized, young Black men will always find whatever Kyrie and Kanye are on before they will find me, before they will find St. Andrew. So that's why I'm making that video, because I understand how you end up thinking the earth is flat and watching ridiculous Black Hebrew Israelite documentaries. I mean, it's gonna be partly for the Jews. Like, yeah, I'm gonna hopefully include some Jewish creators, because they can't have that. You can't do that right without talking to everybody involved. But it won't be in the interest of dunking on Kanye. You see what I'm saying? And so we gotta be careful with Black conservatism, because there is very little genuine effort or like energy in what they do. These are Black folks, many of them with internalized anti-Black isms. It's hard not to, like if you are black in America, it's hard not to get a little anti-blackness in you at times, especially when you're younger. That's the default, which is why I hold space for them, you know, on the low. I try to be empathetic. But for those who are like out here making money off the grift, Pastel said non-black people don't know the difference between the grift and the social conservative blackness. And both of those are a problem, but like, yeah. And it's not even just that. It's that, like, when I was talking to this dude, I was like, yo, there's two, like, different white leftists that I'm experiencing. There's white leftists that are legit, just dope overall, but they, in general, lack a black analytical frame, because how do you get that as a white person? That's a rare, you can't get that easily. You have to really, really work for that. And since everybody in this community is like 15 to 25, like black folks don't get strong black analytical frames until they 30. So you don't understand that talking about Black Hammer like it's a real problem is several layers of anti-black. Even if you're trying to just point out the problem, you're falling into a different set of problems that you don't even know or understand. And then, like, going back to the situation with Noah, it's difficult because, like, I don't remember the young lady's name. Don't nobody go and like send no negativity her way on my behalf or Noah's behalf or whatever. Leave her alone. Let her do a thing. It is what it is. I wish no ill will to that young lady. But like, the take was the take, and I'll leave it at that, because I'm definitely not going, because the same way, here's a great way to put it out to like exemplify it. The same way it's difficult and you have to be very careful as a white person being critical of black politics, especially black conservative issues. I have to be just as careful when being openly critical towards black women, even when it's a fucking Candace Owens. What was I saying? But yeah, so like when you do that, right? It's like, it's a weird position. Like normally I wouldn't say anything. It's because it's off the strength of Noah that I'm like, no, I want to be clear. There was nothing wrong done by Noah Sampson in that situation. But it is a dangerous space to be in, to have to like openly defend white folks against black bullshit in public. There's no wins in that. Like this moment right here will be clipped by insert bad faith black manosphere conservative nigga to talk about how my real audience is white liberals. But it's just the reality of the situation. You know what I mean? And that's the setup. That's the okie doke. That's how they support white supremacy, shielding themselves from criticism through blackness. That's why they're so loved by the fucking algorithm. That's why Candace Owens is the biggest conservative star in America, a black woman. Why? Because she is purposefully playing two marginalized identities against those actual marginalized people to limit their ability to critique her bullshit. I gotta figure out this right here. The biggest star in the black manosphere is a white woman? Please tell me that's not like, well, no, please tell me that is true, actually. Please tell me that's true. Oh, Just Pearly Things. Yeah, you know what? Shout out to Waving the Red Flag podcast. They did mention her. I remember that. Has she really gotten that big? I know. Oh, that's so embarrassing. I don't even know how to respond to that. Oh, Lord. Damn, she hit. Wow. Well, her views ain't that crazy. Well, at least on YouTube, these views ain't shit. Man, whatever. That's TikTok problem. She probably dominating on TikTok. And that's what I'm telling y'all, man. Obsidian crowned her? I know Obsidian didn't crown her. I've had conversations with Obsidian. Just because he's like, you know, he got some awful politics and ideas, but he's at least respectful. I know Obsidian didn't crown her. I'm gonna fuck around and have to talk to him about that. That's so, I mean, that shows you what that space is really about. I mean, they stay simping for white women. I agree, but like, there's like self-respect. You know what I'm saying? But that shows you though. That shows you how algorithms push culture and not the other way around. Because there's no way in hell that a white woman would really be the voice of the Black manosphere if not for an algorithmic boost to that particular combination. She's pretty good looking. She's not like, you know, Instagram model, but like she's good looking enough. You get a white woman, you give her conservative, regressive, misogynistic bullshit, and then you add Black men. That's the combination. Boy, if you want to listen, all of y'all can have 1 million TikTok followers by the end of the month. If you can push misogynistic, interracial conservatism, that's it. That's it. That is the combination. That is the key. That is the golden ticket. That's it right there. That's me all 2023. Interracial conservative misogyny.
That's me all 2023. Interracial conservative misogyny.
I'm gonna get Maggie Mae Fish back up here. We gonna get it. Cause you see how they push interracial anything on TikTok. And then you add conservatism and misogyny to it. There you go. I'm sorry. All right, I gotta go, y'all. I gotta go. That's crazy. I'm gonna have to return to that. That's gonna be, we're gonna talk about that next week. I gotta look into that one. All right, y'all. Peace and blessings.